Having graphed the basic sine curve and gone through considerations of amplitude and period with the sine curve, we can dispense with the cosine curve in one video. Let's start with the basic graph. Right, looking at our unit circle. I'm going to again consider only quarter revolutions. Revolution of 0, our cosine value is 1. At pi over 2, cosine drops to 0. Pi down to -1. Three pi over 2 back to 0. And then 2 pi up to 1. And then since we're going back around the circle, this pattern is just going to repeat. So there's the first cycle and a little bit beyond. Right, this cycle here is just going to copy itself down the line. Negative rotations. Negative pi over 2, we're at 0. Negative pi down to -1. Negative 3 pi over 2 up to 0. Negative 2 pi up to 1. So there is the graph of cosine x. Its period, which is the smallest distance where it starts to repeat itself, 2 pi. We have an amplitude for cosine as well. This one goes between -1 and 1, or to think of it, I guess, in a more correct fashion, from the x-axis, the curve goes up a maximum of 1, down a maximum of -1. So the amplitude here is 1. And notice the curve is bound in between -1 and 1, just like the sine curve. Okay. So here are some key characteristics of the graph of cosine x. Let's graph a cosine curve that's a little more complicated. Let's do 4 cosine 2x. Okay. We multiply our cosine curve by 4, so the amplitude is now 4. We've stretched it vertically by a factor of 4. We replaced x with a 2x. So we've shrunk our period, 2 pi over 2. Our period is down to pi. So to graph the function, I'll throw in the bounds at 4 and -4. And then I'm going to start thinking about the period. So starting at 0, the first cycle completes at pi. Take this period, chop it into fourths. Pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4. This is the cosine curve, so the cycle starts up at 1, or starts up at 4 rather. Down to 0, down to -4, back to 0, up to 4. Continues to repeat in the positive direction. In the negative direction, oops, that last one's negative pi. Down to 0, down to negative 4, back to 0, up to 4. Okay. So there's the graph of 4 cosine of 2x.